has that threat facing them. Senator Booker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a difficult issue for me because I live in Newark, New Jersey. I'm the only senator that lives in an urban community that is, I live in a community below the poverty line, and I've had experiences with gun violence that is, will chill me for the rest of my life. But one of the things that frustrates me is often the racial tinge that this has, that we often talk about this as an urban problem. It actually infuriates me because I think it makes it harder for us to come together and realize this is an American problem affecting all American communities. And just so we can be factual, from 2016 to 2020, 13 of the 20 counties with the most gun homicides per capita were rural communities. It is very frustrating that the talk about Chicago that I've heard so demonizes a city that actually doesn't have the highest murders per capita of American cities or even in American counties. And it really obscures the strategies to do something about this. Now, what urban communities like mine have, which frustrates me, and I think this was said by Ms. Swearer and others, is that there are a whole bunch of other attendant problems that are correlative of violence. High lead poisoning levels, high poverty levels, inadequate housing. I could go on and on and on of issues that I've heard people on the conservative side of the aisle, to the conservative side of the country, to the more progressive side, understand that we are not often getting at the root problems that really create environments where violence proliferates. And so I'm so happy to have this conversation, but I've had decades of frustration living in my community and seeing evidence-based examples of things that lower violence. Mr. Cook, I wish you and I got to work together when I was a mayor, to have you as a prosecutor in my city. I think you and I would have done a lot of good, in all sincerity. Because what frustrates the hell out of me is cities like mine have too much of the policing we don't need, where I watch kids getting arrested for doing things that kids at Yale and Stanford did when I was there. Now they've got records. Now they can't get jobs because they were arrested on marijuana charges when we have had presidents and senators bragging about their pot usage. And what that does economically to a city is stunning when you have mass incarceration for low-level nonviolent drug crime. But I do know when we target the small percentage of people in my city who have records of violence, we've been able to have incredible results. That's why I think you and I, if I was mayor and you were my U.S. attorney, we could have done some good by targeting what the problem is. But then Mr. Cook, you said something else which stunned me when I became mayor, was how we were able to drive down recidivism rates by having substantive programs that helped people come home. First of all, just getting identification or housing and a job drop recidivism rates, not to mention all the other things that we can do, but we can't find funding for those programs to expand them to scale. Mr. Bryant, if you can just please, we know violence intervention programs work. It's not even anymore there's no debate here. Could you just tell me that the funding issue, if we were able to take programs like this to scale, what kind of results do you think we could see?
Thank you for the question. I think we could see major results. We do something in Chicago where we identify, our population in each community, all 77 neighborhoods. In those, top 30 neighborhoods, we're looking at who are the identified people, what do we have currently in terms of funding, and what funding would be necessary for us to get to 75% of the people who are at risk of being a perpetrator or a victim of gun violence. And we're doing all of the things that everyone has said here. We're putting social supports around them. We're subsidizing people getting a GED. We're giving people transitional jobs, supporting them through jobs, paying for them to get to and from school to their job without having to pay for it. So we all agree on the things that matter most. And I think the other, some people would say that intact families are important. Well, we got to have intact families that are healthy mentally, financially, and are well housed as well to be an intact family.
And let's just be clear, and this is something I don't think most Americans know. Rural area, urban area that the cost of a shooting, I went to my hospital, University Hospital in Newark, and just said, how much does a non-fatal gunshot wound cost taxpayers? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not to mention what that trauma does to a family or community. I've seen businesses close just because they've had shootings at them. The ripple effect of one shooting economically, yet we can't come up with the investments in evidence-based programs that are actually working to lower violence. We're being penny wise and pounds foolish in this country. And there's enough bipartisan opportunity here in this room. We have shown that we can do bipartisan things on actual stuff that works to lower violence, but communities that are so suffering from the trauma is incredible. If I can just have, for Mr. Whitehouse, one last degree of indulgence on a personal level.
Senator Lee, who is entitled to the indulgence here since he's up.
I appreciate that. Well, this is actually about Senator Lee. It's very personal because as much as he's my friend, he doubts me. And so, Mr. Bryant, you're on under oath here. You and I played football together. You were on the wrong side of the ball. Just for Mr. Lee's benefit, am I a former great tight end or the greatest tight end you've ever played with? Please, for Michael Lee, just let him know.
I guess at Stanford, I think on our particular team, he would have been the greatest on our team.
Thank you very much. That's for the record, forever in the American congressional record.
And I stand, Senator Lee.